Donna Mossberg, and I'm a retired art teacher from East Noble, and I'm going to give a presentation today on how to make an assemblage art project. Now, this particular assemblage art project looks like this when it's done. Follows the artist Louise Nevelson, and this project is really good for almost any grade I can think of, even possibly even kindergarten. It's not hard at all to do, and it's good for our theme this year because it uses recycled and found objects. Now, when I do this lesson, I start out with going over the artist Louise Nevelson. I will show a video or a slideshow of her artwork. There are several videos out there that you can find of her artwork, and I use a slideshow that I make myself because I can make it as long or as short as I want depending on the time I have. And I just go online and find her artwork and copy paste it into a slideshow to show the students. Now, after I show the slideshow, we talk about what we see in her artwork, like that she has a lot of found objects. You can look at her artwork, and in her artwork you can see things like baseball bats, bottles, lamps, just all kinds of things. And it's really fun. It's kind of a little bit like Where's Waldo or I Spy, to look at her artwork and find things in it, and the kids really enjoy that. Then we talk about the fact that her artwork is primarily done in only 3 colors, actually mostly 2. She uses almost always black or white for her entire sculptures, but she does have several works she's done in gold too. The students, we talk about why she does that, and we also look at organic shapes in her artwork and geometric shapes, and I make that one of my emphasis is to identify those things. And then we talk about unity and how making her artwork just one color makes the shapes come out more, because all these found objects are many different colors, and the shapes of the objects kind of get lost by the color, and by making it one color you can see the shapes more clearly. So after we talk about that and her artwork, we also talk a little bit about her childhood and how she came to America from Russia when she was very young. And we talk about how her artwork was actually inspired by things she did as a child, and the students can really identify with that too. When she was very young, she came to Maine, and her father had a job in the lumbering industry. He started out cutting wood that was used on steamships like the Titanic, and the ships would come to America, and then they would need wood to go back to England and Europe, and the lumberjacks would go out, cut the wood, bring it to the shores of Maine to be loaded onto the ships. Now, Louise Nevelson's father became quite wealthy doing this. He had his own business going, and that same area had a lot of other wood industries, and I've read that there was a furniture factory nearby, and they would often toss out rejected chair legs, bedposts, toss them out back to be used for firewood. And Louise would find these pieces and play with them like toys, like you would play with blocks. Maybe she made castles. I talk about that's something the kids can imagine, how she would use those parts to make castles and such. And I've also read that her father himself was a woodworker, and she may have gotten pieces of wood from her father, cast-offs. But anyway, she has said that when she became an adult and she was becoming an artist, she wanted to find a kind of art that was unique, that made her different. And she went back to that time when she played with those thrown away pieces of wood, and she looked for things all over New York and incorporated those into her art, found objects. So that fits our fame theme this year real well, of recycling and reusing things. So we can fit that in there. Now, after we talk about the background of Louise Nevelson, the artist Louise Nevelson, and her artwork, and we've talked about the shapes of organic shapes and geometric shapes and using color to unify her art, then we go on to actually create the platform that the student work will be done on. And here's an example of that, how it's done when the platform's ready. Now, this is done with craft sticks or popsicle sticks, and these are actually popsicle sticks that were thrown away. I was an art teacher for East Noble, and in Kendallville, where East Noble's at, there's Craft Caramel Company where they make craft caramels and marshmallows. And I had a parent come to me and ask me if I wanted some of these popsicle sticks or craft sticks, because Crafts was throwing them away. Now, as the story, I understand it, that they put little bags of craft sticks in their caramel apples in the fall, and for people to make in their bags of caramels to make caramelized apples in the fall. And what has happened, some of these bags end up falling on the floor, and because it's a food product, they can't put them in the bags of caramels. Or some of the bags split open and they have loose ones, and so they just had boxes and boxes of these, and this lady gave me about 4 boxes of craft sticks. And so instead of having them being thrown away, we are actually recycling them into art. Now, if you don't have craft sticks, or you don't have the budget to buy them, you might want to use for a base instead maybe a piece of cardboard. You could also use like mat board. And I saw online an example of a teacher who actually used these plastic trays that you get lunches in, like Banquet or Healthy Choice. They would work ideally. And another thing you can do is, for all 4 different kinds of platforms there, you can put them together when the students are done and make like a group arrangement by putting them up on the bulletin board like this, the finished products. So that's something you might want to do to display the students' artwork. Now, the first thing they do when they make this is they're going to need 15 popsicle sticks, 12 for the bottom of the platform, 12 for the bottom of the platform, and 3 to go across like a gate kind of. And you lay out 12, and you might find that some of the craft sticks I have found that sometimes some of the craft sticks aren't that even on the sides, so you might have to, yep, there's 12. You might have to take some bad ones out. So I need 3 more now. There's 12 on the table. Also, a handy way to get them straight, I teach kids to take one of your 3 extra ones and put it at the bottom and just push up till they all come out even. And it's very easy to make this. Oh, by the way, I want to get to this before I have a problem. If you're having the students move their platforms when they're done, it's a good idea to have something good and sturdy underneath that they can pick it up while it's still wet with glue. Because if they try to pick it up at the end of class and it's not dry, the whole thing will fall apart on them, and that's a problem. So you might want to give them each a little piece of cardboard to lay their sticks out on before you get started here. Okay, now I want to make that even again. Okay. So the next part they need to do is, one of these 3 sticks, they need to put their name. I think pencil works as long as they push firmly, and their class, like however you identify their class, like let's say 2B or whatever. Okay, and you put that on one of the sticks. Now this one's a little rough, so actually that's a good one to use for that, because it won't matter here. So if you have one that's kind of very crooked or something, you can save it for this last part. And they put a line of glue across the top, and they put the one with their name and their class on it face up so you can see the name and the class. Put that on top. Then you run another line across the middle of glue and put the second of the extra ones down, and last one at the bottom. Now, I think I could lift this up so you can see how it looks. Oops, that's why we don't want them to be picking them up without a piece of cardboard underneath. Keeping that back out. Well, anyways, I will just tip it maybe a little bit instead of pick it up if I can, so it looks like this when it's done. And then I just have them carry theirs over and set it on a counter. You might want to go around and pick them up after they leave, depending on how much time is left in the class. If they sit there for a half an hour, they start to get pretty firm, but they're not really completely dry for maybe a couple hours. So after we talked about Louise Nevelson, we talked about what an assemblage is and the whole background of what this kind of art is and where it came from, and we made the platform. Then I talk about their bags. Now, I give each student a bag, and they have copies of instructions that tells a list of their ideas that they can look for at home, objects, a whole long list of ideas. It tells a little bit about the background of the project for the parents, and it tells who Louise Nevelson is and assemblage and the theme of the project and pointers and stuff like that. Each student takes the bag home. They have to have their name on the bag. Pens work, permanent markers work on here, but they put their name in their class probably. Their class 2, we'll say 2B again. And they take this baggie home, and in the baggie are all the instructions of what they need to do at home and examples. And I have picture examples for them also for the low readers and for the very young children that can't read. There's a sheet with all kinds of examples of pictures of things that they can look for. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that different kids will have different levels of help at home. And I tell the students not to depend on their parents to do this, that they need to do the looking themselves. And it's not that parents can't help, but not to depend on them, because I've had kids come back and say, well, my mom wouldn't get me anything. Well, it's up for them to look. But I do tell them, before they bring the bag back, they need to have the parents check what's in their bag, that it's okay that they bring it, because this is not something that they're going to bring back home. It's going to become an art project, an piece of art, and you won't be able to take things off and give it back to mom because they're going to be painted too. I did have one child one time who brought a key, and the artwork was on display, and dad saw the missing key from home in this child's art, and that was a problem. So I use that for an example too. So they bring a bag, and I have right here, imagine these things were in their bag. I have a lot of examples here. These are some things they might bring: a spoon, a fork. Now these are going to be a little bit too long, but they can be broken off. Spools for thread, little buttons that have embossing on works really nice because those particular shapes on the button stand out. Possibly some toys like this particular little monkey. I've had him around for a long time teaching. I've always used him as an example because I found him in the bottom of my kids' toy box, and all of his little animal friends were gone. He was the only one left. So he's not really a part of a set anymore. If they have things that a lot of the set's been lost, odds and ends things, those work. Here's a little dinosaur, kind of the same thing. Broken things, I'm not even sure what this came from. Here is a broken pencil sharpener. The blade part's broken. Little cupcake decorations. Kids can easily find lids. Here is a little key to a long lost padlock. Another little lid, a cone-shaped lid. We talk a lot about shapes, so bubble blower, straws, just all kinds of odds and ends things kids might find at home. This is a little finial for the top of a flag, little wooden thing. This is from my mother's hearing aid little replacement things. This is a part that just gets thrown away. Here's a little monkey charm. I'm not sure where he came from, if he came from a zipper or a child's necklace or a keychain. There's bread wrapper tabs. There's bread wrapper wires. Actually, it's very fun to start looking for things, and I always give them a couple weeks to look. Plenty of time, and I go to their classroom and remind them at least once a week. I ask their teachers to have it on the board or in the newsletter, whatever I can do to get kids to remember to bring this stuff in. And I always have a couple kids from each class that don't bring things in, no matter how many reminders. And I have a little system where I gather up things in a tub that they can buy from me. And I do this because I think they need to take some responsibility. So what I have them do is take their bag and find 10 stones to use for money, because I tell them I take stones for money to buy things from my collection, or 10 little sticks. And then they bring their 10 sticks or stones in, and I let them go through my tub and pick out 10 things, and they pay me with the sticks and stones. That way they have some responsibility, and they didn't just blow the project off and say they couldn't do it. And that's worked for me. Now with COVID and all, you might want to have some bags made up with 10 or so items already in it, so they aren't going through the same tub. I don't know how you want to do that, but that's an idea. Okay, so after their little platform's done, it's dry, and it's ready to put together. That's part 2. Now, one thing I want to really emphasize too on the things they bring from home is that they have to be small. Sometimes you get kids just bringing in things just way too big. And again, if they brought something in too big and they don't have enough things, they could possibly trade some things that I have. When I've done this lesson for so many years that all year long, I run across something, I just throw it in my tub. I actually have a very big dish tub full of things in the closet, storage closet, and I don't know, whenever I find something that's like trash, whether it's home or school, I just bring it in, throw it in there. So by the time of the year that I come around to doing it again, I have a lot of stuff in there. So that's part 1, and at the end of part 1, if there's any time left, we talk about things like, why do you think Louise Nevelson only used one color? We talk about the organic and the geometric shapes again, and anything that comes up. Sometimes we usually don't have very much time after that. Now we're ready to go to part 2. Part 2 is when they actually glue the objects on. Okay, so they have their bag now, and they bring their bag in, and they can lay their things out. They don't need to use everything in their bag. They do need to fill up their platform, but if they don't use everything, that's perfectly fine. So, let's see. I think that's probably, I don't need to get everything out. So, they will start looking at things, and while they're looking, they might be thinking about geometric and organic shapes. Like this would be more of an organic shape, geometric shape. I don't know if you want to have them name them as they do it, but they should at least be thinking about it. And they should arrange their things on, I think I'm going to use, got two little kinds of monkeys, so I'm going to put both monkeys on. Okay, and let's see, I need a little something to go here. Oh, here's a tiny little ceramic cup. That would be good right there. And I think that's enough. One thing that doesn't work is things that are made out of fabric. I get quite a few kids that bring like little pom-poms, and they just don't paint up. They don't paint up with the acrylic paint, and they don't paint up with the spray paint. They just don't work. Anything fabric, I've had kids bring in little fabric butterflies and things. They just don't, usually they don't work. So tell them to steer clear of fabric things made out of cloth. So I have this all laid out. Now I need to glue it, and you need to use plenty of glue. The ideal thing to use is hot glue, but of course with children that is not going to work well, so they need to use just the white glue. It generally works. Once in a while something will fall off from somebody's artwork if they didn't use a lot of glue, but they want to use a lot of glue. And you want to pick up the object and put the glue on instead of put the glue on the platform, because if they try putting the glue on the platform, it just ends up not in the right place, in a mess. Now, once in a while, you'll come across something very small, like this tiny little cup or a bead or something. Then it probably works better if you just put a good-sized drop of glue on the platform, then put the item in it. Okay, so this is how it would look. And everything's glued down. And this is probably easy enough that they can move it themselves. It's not going to fall apart. They do have to be careful, though. So they might be able to carry this over to a countertop or a table to set it out to dry. Okay, now, after they glue every item on, one thing I have them do actually before they glue that on, in fact, it might be a good idea to do it when when they put their name on this stick that goes across here, what color they want to use. Now, Louise Nevelson, like we said, only used black and white and some gold. And when I do this, I actually spray paint the work for them. Now, you might want to have them paint with a brush. If that's what you want to do, it'll probably take you a whole nother class, because this has to dry before they can paint it. But if you do, you want to use acrylic paint, not tempera. The tempera does not stick to metal and plastic. It just flakes off. So you need to use acrylic paint. But like I said, I use the spray paint. I just prefer it. I've already spent 2 class periods doing this lesson, and I don't really want to use 3. You might not have a problem with that. But I give them 3 choices: white, black, or gold, because that's what she uses. And then they put on this, with their name, they put which of the 3 colors they want. And then when I go to spray paint them, I just do all the gold ones in one batch, and all the black ones and all the white ones in one batch. So I have here an example of one that's all ready to be spray painted. It has a bread wrapper tab, a lost and found toy piece, one of these little foam flowers, some sort of hook that the sticky doesn't work anymore. It's something you'd probably throw away. Some lids, 4 different lids, a little plastic toy shovel. This is also a cake decoration, and a little ant, little plastic ant. Now, this one's ready to spray paint, and what I want to do is to show you this, see how colorful this is, and right now the colors really stand out, and it's almost as much about the color you see as the shapes, but Louise Nevelson was more interested in shapes. So once you spray it, it kind of unifies the whole thing. It pulls the objects together, makes it seem more like one piece of art instead of a bunch of things. So I'll give you, again, colorful, and then you're going to spray paint it. You can probably tell I'm doing this outside. Okay. That's not a very good can of spray paint, but it works. So here you can see now you have all one color and it's more unified. I think the kids kind of get that idea too. I think it does kind of soak in a little bit to them. Okay, so that's how you do it. Some different ideas. Do I have anything else? Oh, the videos. I had a video I would, if I had time at the end of the second class, if I had time, I would play a video called Art Again, and it's by, it's a series of art videos, and Art Again is one of them, by a series called Eureka. And this one was really good because it was an artist out of Chicago, and it was a male artist. I think it kind of helps pull the boys in a little bit. It also talks about how when he was a child, he lived near a dump, and he and his brother would go scavenge things from the dump. And he started at a very young age making things out of the junk from the dump. And when he became an adult, he had already made multiple sculptures, only he didn't think of them as sculptures, but other people thought of them as sculptures and started calling him an artist. So he thought, oh, I guess I'll just be an artist because I enjoy doing this. And he's made many, many, many sculptures out of junk. He gets commissions and he builds things special for people. He made a special mannequin-like sculpture for a doctor. It was commissioned, but he makes other things too, ducks, animals, just a lot of things. And this video is really good. I don't know if you can find it. It's a rather old one, but if you could find it, that would be a good one. There's some videos online about artists making things out of trash and junk. That would be a good thing to show them too. And our artists in residence this year, or our guest artists, visiting artists, I guess, I think there's a video with some of her work that could be shown too as kind of a filler if you have time at the end after you've done this. See, is there anything else I need to tell you about this? Well, I really enjoy this project. I'm retired, and every now and then I think about some project I just really like to teach, and this is one of them. It's just really enjoyable. I hope you have a lot of fun doing it too with your classes if you like to do it. Thanks, bye.